This is the tallest arch on the planet, and this afternoon I am going to walk right beneath it. 630 feet of gleaming stainless steel, standing on the ground where the city of St. Louis was born. It looks impossibly simple, one clean line of silver against the Missouri sky, yet almost nothing about it is simple. The man who designed it never lived to see a single piece of it raised. The insurance men predicted 13 workers would die building it, and the real number turned out to be 0. This is Gateway Arch National Park, the smallest national park in America, holding one of the biggest stories in the country. We are in downtown St. Louis, Missouri, on the west bank of the Mississippi River, almost exactly where the Missouri River pours in from the Great Plains. The arch stands on a strip of parkland squeezed between the skyscrapers and the water, less than 200 acres in all. It is a late July afternoon, the classic thick heat of a Midwestern summer, and I am walking a loop of about 1.5 miles through the grounds. The route runs from the Old Courthouse down under the arch itself, along the riverfront and back through the shaded alleys of the park. Small ground, enormous history. Let us get into it. The first thing that strikes you in person is that photographs flatten this thing. From straight on, it reads as a slender rainbow of metal. But as you walk the curving paths, the two legs slide apart, and you realize they are planted more than 600 feet from each other. The whole park was rebuilt around these walks in the last decade, and the paths are deliberately curved so the arch keeps changing shape as you move. One moment it towers, the next it leans, the next it almost vanishes into a single blade of light. Locals will tell you it never looks the same twice in a day. The steel picks up whatever the sky is doing and wears it. This exact riverbank is where St. Louis began. In 1764, a French fur trader named Pierre Laclede chose this limestone landing for a new trading post, and his teenage assistant Auguste Chouteau led the crew that started clearing the site. They named the settlement for King Louis IX of France, the Crusader king. The location was no accident, for just upstream the Missouri River joins the Mississippi, which meant furs from half a continent could float right past this spot. The village grew into the great funnel of the Western River trade. Every story in this park flows from that one decision about geography. Standing at the base, you can see the geometry that makes the arch work. Each leg is a hollow triangle, 54 feet on a side down here at the ground, tapering to just 17 feet up at the top. That taper is why the arch looks like it is soaring rather than squatting. There are no interior floors in the ordinary sense, just a stack of steel triangles growing narrower as they climb into the sky. Put your hand on the plate, and even in July the steel feels cool, a 1/4 inch of polished stainless facing the sun. Above me, those panels rise higher than a 60-story building. So why is a silver arch standing here at all? By the early 1930s, this riverfront had collapsed, the steamboat trade long gone, the old warehouses mostly derelict. In 1933, a St. Louis lawyer and civic booster named Luther Ely Smith looked out at the decaying blocks and imagined a great national memorial to the westward expansion of the United States. something that would honor Thomas Jefferson and the pioneers while reviving the dying district. He organized the effort, and in December 1935, President Franklin Roosevelt signed an executive order creating the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial here as a National Historic Site. It took decades and endless political battles before anything rose on the site, but the idea had taken hold. What happened next still shapes how this ground feels. Beginning in October 1939, crews began demolishing roughly 40 city blocks of the historic riverfront, the dense iron-fronted warehouse district that had been the commercial heart of 19th-century St. Louis. By May of 1942, the neighborhood was gone, leaving a vast cleared tract beside the river. Only a couple of survivors were spared, most famously the old cathedral, the Basilica of St. Louis, which still stands at the edge of the park today. Then came war, and the empty acres sat waiting for almost a generation. The memorial existed as a promise and a parking lot. Walking directly underneath is the moment that gets everyone. You stand between the legs, tip your head all the way back, and the two silver lines converge more than 60 stories above you into a single ribbon. The proportions play a famous trick here, because the arch is exactly as wide as it is tall, 630 feet each way, yet from below the height seems to win completely. On a breezy day, the clouds slide behind the steel, and the whole structure appears to be slowly falling toward you. Every few steps, another camera comes out. It has been doing this to visitors since 1965. The design came out of one of the most celebrated architecture competitions ever held in America. In 1947, the Memorial Association launched a national contest for the site, and 172 entries poured in, a who is who of post-war American design. The submissions were judged anonymously, each known only by a number. In February 1948, the jury voted unanimously for entry number 144, a colossal stainless steel arch by the young Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen, with landscape designer Dan Kiley on his team. An arch, the jury felt, was the perfect symbol, a gateway rendered in a single structural gesture. The modern age had won the riverfront. Now for the best story of the whole competition. Eero Saarinen was the son of Levee Saarinen, a world-famous architect in his own right, and father and son had entered the contest separately with separate designs. When the finalists were chosen, the congratulatory telegram was addressed simply to Saarinen, and it reached the father. The family opened champagne and toasted Levee's triumph. Only when the correction arrived did everyone learn that the winning entry belonged to the son, at which point Levee, by every account a gracious man, opened a second bottle and toasted Eero. It remains one of the most charming mix-ups in architectural history. There is a sadness folded into all this brilliance. Eero Saarinen went on to become one of the most famous designers of the 20th century, shaping airport terminals, furniture, and corporate campuses that still look futuristic today. But money and politics delayed the arch for years, and construction did not begin until February 1963. Saarinen had died of a brain tumor in September 1961 at just 51 years old. He saw models, drawings, and endless tests, but never one piece of steel rising over the river. The greatest work of his life was built entirely without him. The shape itself is a small miracle of mathematics. The arch is not a parabola, it is a weighted catenary, the curve a chain makes when it hangs under its own weight, flipped upside down. In a hanging chain, every link pulls in pure tension, so when you invert the curve, every point stands in pure compression, with the forces flowing smoothly down the legs into the ground. Saarinen subtly weighted the curve, making it heavier toward the bases, because he judged a pure catenary looked slightly too pointed overhead. The result leans on an equation using the hyperbolic cosine, refined until the mathematics and the eye agreed. It is engineering and sculpture in the same line. The gleam that stops traffic comes from the largest single use of stainless steel any project had ever attempted. The outer skin is grade 304 stainless, a quarter of an inch thick, 886 tons of it, wrapped over a carbon steel inner structure. Between the two walls of each leg up to the 300-foot level, workers poured concrete for stiffness and weight. Altogether, the monument weighs nearly 43,000 tons. There is no paint anywhere on it, and there never has been. What you see is bare polished metal, and that is why, 60 years on, it still looks like it landed yesterday. Get close to a leg, and the perfect monument becomes wonderfully human. You can trace the faint seams between panels, see the slight ripple of hand-finished metal, catch your own stretched reflection sliding across the curve. Visitors press their palms flat against it, the way you might touch the hull of a great ship. Down here, the section is so broad that from certain angles the arch stops being an arch at all and becomes a silver wall leaning out over you. Then you step back, the taper reasserts itself, and the whole thing snaps back into that effortless line. Effortless is exactly what it is not. Building it was a high-wire act with no precedent to copy. Starting in 1963, crews stacked the prefabricated triangular sections one atop another, each one lifted by a creeper derrick, a crane that climbed the outside of the leg it was building on rails bolted to the finished steel. The two legs rose separately for more than 2 years, curving toward each other over the riverfront, and a stabilizing truss was wedged between them partway up to hold them steady in the wind. Surveying had to be spot on, because an error of a fraction of an inch at the base would have become a hopeless miss at the top. Much of the precision checking was done at night, so the sun would not warp the steel with uneven heat. The tolerance for the final meeting was less than the width of a hand. October 28, 1965 was the day of truth. Thousands gathered to watch the final 8-foot section, the Keystone, be lifted into the gap at the top. But that morning the sun heated the south leg faster than the north, the steel expanded, and the gap began to close before the piece was even in the air. So firefighters trained hoses on the south leg, streaming cold water down 700 feet of steel to shrink it back. Crews jacked the legs apart, slid the Keystone in, and had it secured in about 13 minutes. When the jacks released, The two independent towers became a single arch, locked in compression. The curve Saarinen drew in the 1940s finally closed over the Mississippi. One of the pleasures of this walk is how the arch keeps framing the city around it. From the right spot, the legs make a colossal silver window, and inside it sits the green dome of the Old Courthouse, lined up perfectly on the axis, with the modern Skyline stacked behind. Saarinen planned that alignment deliberately, old civic St. Louis held inside the new monument. The grounds around me were shaped as gently rolling lawns with reflecting ponds and thousands of trees, a piece of landscape architecture in their own right. In July, everything is deep green, and the cicadas are going full volume. It is a national park that hums like a city because it is one. Here is the construction fact that deserves to be more famous. Before work began, actuaries looked at the plan, men walking bare steel hundreds of feet over the river with 1960s equipment, and projected that 13 workers would likely die building the arch. The ironworkers heard that number and went to work anyway, month after month, through heat, wind, and winter. Not one of them was killed. 0 deaths on the entire monument, a safety record that stunned the industry at the time. When you stand under the arch, you are standing under their steadiness as much as under Saarinen's curve. Then there was the puzzle nobody had solved. How do you carry the public up the inside of a curved, tapering leg? A standard elevator only travels straight, and a staircase of over 1,000 steps was never going to work for visitors. The answer came from Dick Bowser, a self-taught elevator man whose family built parking garage lifts and who was given just 2 weeks to sketch a concept. His design is a hybrid of an elevator and a Ferris wheel, a train of 8 barrel-shaped capsules, 5 seats each, that rotate inside their frames to stay level while the track bends through the curve. The ride to the top takes about 4 minutes, the ride down about 3. His little capsules have been climbing the arch since 1967. The walk north swings through a lease of trees where the arch plays hide and seek between the trunks. This is where you appreciate that the park is genuinely small. You can cross the whole thing in a quarter of an hour, yet the designers folded in ponds, groves, and long sight lines that make it feel far larger. Runners loop the paths at midday even in this heat. Underfoot, it is strange to remember, lie the footprints of the demolished warehouse district, streets that simply ceased to exist in 1942. A city block pattern erased, and a curve of steel set down in its place. Few parks anywhere sit on a stranger foundation. At the top of the arch, inside that final ribbon of steel, there is an observation deck about 65 feet long, subtly curved like the structure itself. 32 small windows, each just 7 inches tall and 27 inches wide, are angled into the sloping walls, 16 facing east over the Mississippi and 16 facing west across downtown. On a clear day you can see up to 30 miles, barges pushing upriver on one side, the grid of Missouri running to the horizon on the other. The arch is built to sway, up to 18 inches in either direction in extreme wind, though on a normal day the movement is barely an inch and most visitors never feel it. It is engineered to shrug off winds of 150 miles an hour. A quiet steel room, 630 feet over the spot where the fur canoes once landed. At the west end of the park, the path delivers you to the Old Courthouse, and it is a jolt of a different century. Greek Revival columns, a cast iron dome painted soft green, begun in 1839 and finished during the Civil War. For decades, this was the tallest building in Missouri, the civic stage where the growing river city argued itself into being. Today it belongs to the National Park, the oldest building on the grounds by more than a century. Its front steps look straight down the lawn to the arch, two monuments facing each other across everything that happened in between. This building holds one of the most consequential legal stories in American history, and it deserves a moment of quiet respect. In 1846, Dred and Harriet Scott, an enslaved couple, walked into this courthouse and filed suits for their freedom, and their trials were heard here in the years that followed. The case rose all the way to the United States Supreme Court, which in 1857 ruled against them in a decision so infamous it helped push the nation toward civil war. The Scotts themselves were freed by a new owner just months after the ruling, though Dred Scott died the following year. Their courage is honored here today with exhibits and a statue of the couple beside the courthouse. Remember their names when you look at that dome. From the courthouse, the route runs back under the arch and drops toward the water on the grand staircase, a huge fan of steps spilling down to the levee. This is the classic postcard climb in reverse, the arch at your back, the Mississippi opening out in front, wide, brown, and moving with real purpose. Barge tows slide past that are longer than city blocks. Across the water lies Illinois, and just downstream the great steel spans of the old bridges stitch the two banks together. The river is why every single thing in this park exists. It feels right that the walk ends by meeting it face to face. The arch memorializes a specific idea, St. Louis as the gateway to the American West. After the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 doubled the size of the country, Lewis and Clark staged their expedition here, setting out up the Missouri in 1804 from the rivers meeting just north of this spot. In the decades that followed, fur brigades, wagon outfitters, and steamboat lines made this city the jumping-off point where the settled East turned into the open West. It is a story of astonishing ambition and movement, and it is also a story with real costs, for that same expansion displaced the native nations whose homelands these were. The Parks Museum tells the era in full today, ambition and consequence together. The arch stands for the door itself, and doors, of course, swing both ways. Down here on the levee you are walking on the oldest surface in the park, the sloped cobblestone landing where the whole city used to meet the water. The stones are uneven, river polished, and in high water years the Mississippi climbs right up over them. It is easy to stand here and repopulate the scene in your head, because for a solid century, this landing was one of the loudest places in the West. Now it is quiet enough to hear the current chewing at the stone. The arch soars directly overhead from this angle, one leg almost on the water line. Best view in the park, and most people skip it. Picture this levee in the 1850s. Steamboats stood shoulder to shoulder for a mile, stacks smoking, gangplanks down, roustabouts hauling cotton, lead, furs, and grain, with St. Louis ranking among the busiest inland ports in America. The city learned how quickly that glory could burn, literally, when the Great Fire of 1849 started aboard a steamboat and destroyed much of the fleet and the waterfront blocks behind it. The city rebuilt in brick and iron and roared on. Then the railroads crossed the river and the steamboat age faded within a generation. The empty levee the boats left behind became, in time, the blank canvas this park was drawn on. For half a century, this park had a serious flaw. An interstate highway ran in a trench between the arch and downtown, slicing the monument off from its own city. The fix arrived through a huge renewal project called City Arch River, which capped the highway with a broad landscaped land bridge, finished in 2014. So you now walk from the courthouse to the arch over seamless lawn without ever noticing the traffic below. The same project rebuilt the grounds and delivered a new museum in July 2018, 46,000 square feet of galleries tucked underground beneath the arch. From above, almost nothing shows. The lawns simply roll on. It is some of the best invisible architecture in any American park. By late afternoon, the arch begins its best performance. The west side catches the lowering sun and turns from silver to white gold, while the east face cools into blue shadow, so the monument looks lit from within. Shadows of the legs stretch across the lawns like the hands of an enormous sundial. Photographers start staking out spots by the ponds for the reflection shot. Because there is no paint, no glass, no cladding, just bare steel, the arch does this every single clear evening, a light show with no bulbs. Saarinen chose the material for exactly this reason, a monument made mostly of sky. In February 2018, this place got a new name when the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial was redesignated by Congress as Gateway Arch National Park. That made it the smallest national park in the United States by a landslide, less than 200 acres, under 2% the size of the next smallest. The choice stirred a friendly argument that continues today, since it has no wilderness, no backcountry, not 1 mile of remote trail, just a manicured urban green space around a monument. But it protects the founding site of a great American city, a landmark of world architecture, and a courthouse where history pivoted. 63 parks carry the title, and none of the others can say anything like that. Small ground, we said at the start, but never small history. The loop comes back around and I take the long last look every visitor takes, walking away while glancing over a shoulder. 1.5 miles of walking, and the ground covered 2.5 centuries, a French fur landing, a steamboat boom, a demolished district, a grieving family of architects, ironworkers on bare steel, and a couple named Scott who asked a courthouse for their freedom. All of it folded into one clean silver line against the sky. That is the trick of this smallest of national parks. It carries its size in meaning rather than miles. The arch does not shout any of this. It just stands there, catenary perfect, and lets you walk through. If If you find yourself anywhere near St. Louis, give this park an afternoon. Ride the strange little capsules to the top if the line allows, but above all do the walk, Courthouse to Keystone to Levee, because the ground tells the story even better than the view does. Every place has a doorway it walked through to become itself. Few of them built the door 630 feet tall and polished it. Thank you for watching. Follow for more of the trails of the world.